This is the Striving Butterfly podcast. Authenticity is not about being perfect. It's not about having everything. It is not about looking good and feeling good. It's about being real. It's about being vulnerable. It's about putting yourself in places that allow you to own your truth and your story. And welcome to another episode of The Striving Butterfly, the podcast where I explore what it truly is to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to shape you into something else. I am all about living authentically and owning your story and your truth. I'm Coleen, and today we're diving into a topic that is incredibly close to my heart. Figuring it out as you go along. The myth of having it all figured out. There is always an assumption, I look like I got it all together, but in most times, I'm trying to figure it out as I go along. None of us got a manual with this thing called life. All of us, even when you think they've got it all together and everything looks nicely packed, they're figuring it out. It just might be something different. Their circumstances are different to yours, but it doesn't mean that they've got everything together. I want to start by addressing a common misconception. The idea that we need to have everything figured out before we take the first step. Whether it's starting a new venture, embarking on a project, getting into a relationship, or simply the complexities of everyday life. There's this pervasive belief that we should have a detailed roadmap. But the truth is, life doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. And I'm very big into planning and vision and goals and being prepped for what is to come. But let me share a personal story with you, even though you've heard loads of them already if you've listened to previous podcasts. When I first started this podcast, and it was only last year, which is why I wanted something still quite close and relevant, I actually had no idea where it was going to take me. I understood the assignment to a degree of what I needed to do, but I didn't have a detailed content plan. I didn't know what the episode will look like from one episode to a next. I wrote in my notepad how I wanted it to look and feel and what I wanted to include and what I wanted to delve into. But I didn't know how I was going to edit it. I didn't know if it was going to be audio only or video. I didn't even know all about lighting and how I'm going to be positioned. And it was just back to basics for me. And I am quite technical. I got quite a fair bit of technical knowledge. But I procrastinated for the longest because I just didn't feel I had all the answers and I knew exactly point by point what I was going to do. All I had was a call to share my journey towards authenticity and a willingness to learn along the way. And you know what? That's all I needed to get started. I didn't think I did at the time because I procrastinated maybe for a year and a half before I actually got going. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is that uncertainty isn't something to be feared. It's something to be embraced. When you allow yourself to be open to new experiences and challenges, you create space for growth and discovery. And along the way, changes may happen in your life that causes you to make a detour or make some changes. But it's in those moments of uncertainty and it's on those moments of change we're walking a bit more into our calling and our purpose that we often find our true selves. The selves that some just may not like, some just don't understand. To us, it just feels right. Now, you could be going through this right now of this transitional change and you're wondering, how do I do this? How do I make that next step? How do I make that decision? Do I leap? Do I skip? Do I walk? Do I wait? I would say in a couple of tips for embracing uncertainty is one, stay curious. Stay curious. Approach every situation with a sense of curiosity rather than fear. Ask yourself, what can I and will I learn from this? Be flexible. I know plans are great. They are so great. But they don't always go according to plan. You know this. So ensure you have flexibility in your plan. So you are willing to adapt and change course when necessary. One of the hardest ones, trust yourself. Believe in your ability to navigate through challenges, through your fears, through the moments of confusion. Trust that you have the resources within you to deliver and figure things out as they come. And just don't give up. Figuring it out as you go along is closely tied with being you and living authentically. When you're true to yourself, you give yourself permission to make mistakes, to learn, and to grow. You're not always going to get it right. You ain't always going to be looking the boom things. You ain't always going to be ticking all the boxes. And you may not always have the people who you want around you because they knew you one way and now you're a different way. Before you looked like you had it all together. Now you're just a bit of a hot mess. But that hot mess may just be for a season while you're in preparation, while you're in change, while you're in transition. But no, authenticity is not about being perfect. It's not about having everything. It is not about looking good and feeling good. It's about being real. It's about being vulnerable. It's about putting yourself in places that allow you to own your truth and your story. And it is about you loving on yourself and appreciating all of you in the highs and the lows. Sometimes we wear this cover because we don't want people to see. And we want people to assume that we've got it all figured out. But if we have it all figured out, how does someone know when to offer help, whatever that help looks like? How does someone know how they can make a difference and have an impact on your life. How can someone invest in your vision if you are too scared to share because you're going on like you got it all figured out and it's all in the planning? So it might not be now, it might be 2 years' time, but I got this. There are some practical steps to authentic living. It's definitely worth setting time aside to just think through, try, and just have a different lens on how you look at things and how you're dealing with things. It won't always be easy, but you will definitely reap the rewards once you start down the journey. You might get a little bit upset because you're like, everything is getting worse, not better. But when you know they're getting worse, and when you're like, nothing can get worse than this, it's usually because something greater is coming and you're just in preparation. But to start you, to make sure that you're prepared to transition into the position that you need to be, one, take some time to have and do self-reflection. Take time to reflect on your values, your beliefs, your passions, and goals. So, what truly matters to you? What truly matters to you? Because most of the time, we're too concerned about everybody else. If you sometimes listen to your responses, it's usually, but they, but he, but she. Oh yeah, them. It needs to be, I believe in this. I have a passion for this. These are my goals. These are my values. These are my beliefs. And I stand on them and I want to deliver them and I want to continue to see them through. Another one, authentic expression, which is a real good one, but it's a tricky one as it can sometimes place ourselves in vulnerable situations. But find ways to express your true self in your daily life, whether it's through your work, hobbies, or relationship. Authentic expression. And I said this is where you be vulnerable, because this is the moments when you share how you feel, the highs and the lows. Sometimes the lows are so low you just don't want anyone around you, but it's important that you express exactly how it is that you're feeling, whether you do that through your hobbies, with your family, friends, and other relationships, just so that you know that your surroundings are with people you know where you can openly express how you feel. If you don't feel you can be yourself, if you feel uncomfortable, if you feel that this environment isn't for me, get up and move, because you need to feel like yourself. You need to be doing justice to yourself and for yourself. The next one is community. Similar to two, but make sure you surround yourself with people who support and encourage your authentic self. So it's first, be in places where you can be your authentic self, but also surround yourself with people that will allow and appreciate your authentic self. You don't have to shush yourself or hold back or give a side eye because you're like, oh, not too sure about this. A strong support system can make all of a difference in a transitional change when wanting to live authentically. There's so many people that we may think have it all figured out, but had to find their way. And some of it is very quietly not sharing their story until it was the right time where they've gone through it all and feel that they've achieved what they wanted to achieve. So it's now time to share the voice so others know what you see, what you think, what you're like, ooh, wow, amazing. There was a real struggle to get to there. Viola Davis, you learn about her story. Michelle Obama, if you've read her story, yeah, some of them are in great high positions now, doing amazing things. But the devil is in the detail. But the authenticity of them is within the detail. Knowing their history, knowing their story, knowing their struggle, knowing their pain, you can understand while people admire and want to just rub shoulders and be in the presence of their story and really hear how they got through. Because what we see of them now, you would never think that there was pain, heartache, or trauma. There's also, is it Sarah Jakes? Always forget her maiden name, her marriage name. I'm really encouraged by her story and how mighty and how much fire and power she has now. But if you didn't know, you would think, she takes after her father, which she does. But she also had her own journey and her own pathway. So women can relate because there's a realness to her where she doesn't hide her back catalogue of what she went through, similar to these other women. And those are ones you may be able to relate to on a more of a personal level. But on a business level, if you're trying to get your business off the ground and you're like, I don't even know how I'm going to do this. I can't do this. I don't have the funding. I don't have the time. I'm doing every single thing on my own and not getting any support. Then look up Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, who started her business with no background in fashion or retail. If you know the volume of sales and the revenue generated, you will just be inspired to keep going. You've also got the author J.K. Rowling, who wrote the first Harry Potter book while navigating personal and financial challenges. These stories just remind us that success often comes not from having a perfect plan, but from being willing to own the story that they've gone through and own their truth, to take risks, to make the mistakes, and to learn along the way, but also to not give up. As I wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this thought. You don't need to have it all figured out to start living authentically. Life is a journey and not a destination. Embrace the uncertainty, trust yourself, and remember that every step you take brings you closer to the person you're meant to be. Thank you for joining me on this episode of The Striving Butterfly. If you enjoyed today's discussion, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. And as always, stay true to yourself. And before you leave and continue with your day, as you get to the end of this, take a second just to reset. Hit Control, Alt, Delete in your head. As we are all on this journey together of being vulnerable, owning our truth, building on our future, and becoming the best version of ourselves by living authentically. follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. I am your host, Coleen, and remember to control, alt, delete.